Hi everybody, it's 2021 and we're 2 weeks into it. And with everything that's going on, maybe it's time for a break and a good book. I'd like to introduce you to In A Pickle. In A Pickle is a story about a 60-year-old widowed pickle entrepreneur who accidentally gets marijuana into her pickle recipe and gets in a whole heap of trouble. Now, Annie Pickles is quite a character and things are always happening to her. Despite whatever she might try to do, it always seems that life hands her something. And as she's on her way to a cruise, she gets on the airplane and she has quite an interesting seatmate. A rather large lady huffed and puffed down the aisle, stopped at my row of seats. She looked left, then right, and said, "Oh, here I am." She plopped a square canvas bag with a mesh top onto the aisle seat beside me, then struggled to stuff a large bag in the overhead bin until the gentleman finally got up and helped her push it in far enough for the door to close. "Oh, thank you," she said sweetly. "I couldn't have done that on my own. You are so kind. Your wife must be so proud of you. You are married, aren't you? I wouldn't think someone as nice as you would still be available." I watched the man turn beet red as he returned to his seat. She turned to me. "He really is a nice man, don't you think?" She didn't give me time to answer. It's hard to find those kind of men anymore. It's this entire equality thing between men and women. It's spoiled it for us ladies. I nodded at her first remark, but I wasn't sure how I wanted to react to the rest. It seemed she was going to rant on whether I agreed or not. Carefully, she took the square bag and stowed it under the seat in front of her. "Okay, honey, we're on our way. It won't be long now." I looked to see if she had one of those hands-free devices people talk to. Nope, she was talking to herself. Surely she wasn't calling me honey. Was she addressing someone in the bag? Did she have someone's ashes in there? Now I was worried. What kind of person was I sitting next to? She rearranged her clothing a bit, smoothed her skirt, pulled her knit top down over the back of the skirt's waistband. Her hands examined the short, cropped, platinum hair that crowned her head in a spiky cut. Satisfied all was in order, she carefully lowered herself into the seat, produced a mirror compact from her purse in her lap, and she flipped it open and fussed with the layers of makeup on her face. Makeup is high maintenance. That's why I don't wear it much. I almost missed my plane. I had to run from the security area all the way to the gate, my seatmate began again. I knew I couldn't count on my brother to get me there on time. I should have taken a cab. I hate rushing like that. It's not good for Mopsy either. The woman hardly took a breath when she talked. Mopsy? I raised an eyebrow. Was Mopsy the entity she was talking to in the bag? Just as I was about to ask, she leaned forward and unzipped the mesh top of the bag beneath the seat. Instantly, the head of a Skye Terrier adorned with a bright red bow popped out. Good grief! She'd snuggled a dog on board. "Oh, that's my little baby. Are you thirsty? I'll bet you are, and hungry too. Poor baby." She turned to me. "I didn't feed her or give her any water since last evening. I didn't want her making a mess in her little bag." She continued with more information than I ever wanted to hear about the bodily functions of a small dog. But eventually the woman and her dog settled down. The plane lifted off the runway, and to my amazement, the dog never whimpered. I returned to my murder mystery, only to be distracted moments later by two eyes outlined in black and heavy with mascara peering oddly at the front of my paperback. "Good read," the dog lady commented as she sat back in her seat again. "I read that on my last trip to Miami. Let's see if I remember correctly." Her face scrunched together in the middle while she concentrated. "They find the body in the farmer's market in a cooler and suspect the butcher, but then the baker looks guilty when they find out that he's been seeing the victim's wife. Of course they suspect the wife too, and when the CSI guys find beeswax under the victim's fingers, they realize he was killed because he was in debt to the guy who was selling candles, but actually the candles were just a cover for the bookmaking operation that he was running." All in one breath. She told the whole story, all in one breath. Trying to stop her would have been like trying to stop a Mack truck rolling downhill with no brakes. "Oh dear," she raised a hand to her mouth. "I suppose I shouldn't have told you how it ended." Duh, I thought. "Oh well, now you can just enjoy reading it. You won't have to worry about how it comes out in the end." Finished, taken care of, her job was done. She had helped me avoid the consternation of trying to figure out a whodunit. Like I said before, I'm not a violent person, but I clutched my book tightly and willed my hands to stay put. In my head, though, I could hear whack, whack, whack. Mopsy behaved in her little bag until the smell of food began to permeate the cabin. When you begin to unwrap 100 or so muffins from their plastic covering in a confined area, the smell fills the air. Popsy's little stomach must have been churning from lack of food. She began to whimper. Dog Lady rescued Mopsy from the bag and held her furry animal to her abundant chest. The stewardess stopped in the aisle and gently reminded her that the dog would have to go back in the carrier before we landed. Yes, ma'am, the dog lady replied. She just needs a little air. I'll put her back in a minute. Since when were animals allowed out of their carriers on a plane? Weren't they concerned about people's allergies or canine chaos if there were more than one on board? Doesn't anyone follow rules anymore? Mopsy and her owner shared the cinnamon brand muffin bite by bite. Now, I like dogs, but not well enough to be eating from the same muffin. Their muffin disappeared quickly, and Mopsy put her nose in the air, sniffing for more to eat. She spied the half-eaten muffin on my tray. Little legs pumped and pushed until Mopsy had wiggled her way to my muffin, and in an instant it vanished. My mouth hung open in amazement. This petite little thing had swallowed that muffin like a python swallowed a pig. I looked to see if her throat was bulging. Mopsy, bad girl, tell the lady you're sorry. Did the dog talk too? That's all right. I wasn't very hungry, I said to Mopsy. You need it more than I did. I felt sorry for the dog. She hadn't asked to be shut up in a bag, stuffed under a seat, and starved for a day, just so her owner could travel without the guilt of leaving her behind. Dog Lady, on the other hand, was getting my dandruff up. The stewardess came by and politely asked again that Mopsy be returned to her bag until the flight was over. It seemed okay with Mopsy. The muffins were gone. I worried about where those muffins had gone and what kind of havoc they might play with Mopsy's delicate little digestive system. We still had an hour of flight time left. Well, In a Pickle is a lot of fun to read, and I hope that you'll look for it on Amazon. It's available in paperback, and it's also in the Kindle store. Until then, enjoy yourself and enjoy your good reads for 2021. Have a great year.